What's up, brothers and sisters? This is Will Keller of Natural Freedom League. Join John Rowland and I as we premiere a very special episode, number 44, The Consciousness of the Conscious Resistance, with special guest Derrick Broze. John and I will be live in the chat on YouTube this Friday, the 26th of November at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So come on, join us. It's going to be a hot one. And for right now, here's a little teaser. Hope you all enjoy. And remember, put something good in the air and plant something good in the earth. Gia.
People out there are putting all their energy into audit the Fed and, end the Fed. It's like the government's not going to end the Fed. They're not going to audit. And he just kind of said simply, like, if you want to stop the Fed, then stop using the Federal Reserve note. Like, find ways to not use their dollar, because we're just serving those systems. And that just like stuck in my brain, and I started to apply it in a holistic fashion and look at like every area. Okay, well, what about my personal relationships? What about, the way I make my money and where I spend my money, the type of food I eat and where I get that food from, all these different kind of aspects of our life, and looking at them and seeing, are there other ways for me to opt out of these different systems, right? And then when I was writing my book, How to Opt Out the Technocratic State, which I wrote in 2019 and published in early 2020, I was trying to answer the question of, how does a free person stay free in the face of rising AI, facial recognition, and now vaccine passports and things like that? Because prior to COVID, the writing was already on the wall that this was the direction we were headed in. If anybody, for those of us who were paying attention, you could see like what was coming up. And so I was very much thinking like, okay, I'm the kind of person that I don't use bank accounts. I don't deal with the tax system. I try to stay out of these different systems as much as possible. And I think all of us practice that in different ways. We each have different sort of levels of comfort of how far we want to push and what we want to do. But generally, I think people, it's kind of like a natural human aversion to things that don't align with your values. Like, no, I don't want to hang out with those people. They're about those things, and that's not what I'm about. Oh, I don't want to shop at that store because they're doing, it's kind of, I think, not that difficult for people to understand, because we sort of do it intuitively. But I encourage people to think about it like in a bigger context, like every aspect of your life. And that's when I started that phrase, the exit and build, kind of, that's where it came from in the book, just talking about that idea of, if you are in a situation where you're facing technocracy, you have a couple of options. I talk about holding down the fort, which is just simply staying where you are. You're going to fight the fight. You're going to build community there, get involved with activism, work with local people, and do what you can to hold it down. But if you're in a situation where you're like, hey, you know what, I've got no community in my local community, in my local area, or they're passing all these COVID measures, like I don't see anybody resisting, but I see this community over, the state over, the city over, the country over, and they're really doing good things. I'm going to exit from here and go build with them. I'm going to contribute my resources, my skills to that community. And that's the exit and build strategy. And I think that's what many people are now thinking about it. It's been really cool to kind of see that language getting used more and more in different circles, because I think people are recognizing that, whether they're talking about physically moving, because exit and build is like in the terms I was talking about, physically moving, but it's also just whether you hold down the fort or exit and build in terms of moving location, you can still exit and build philosophically from these other systems, right? You can hold down the fort in California, but still say, well, I'm going to exit from the banking system and contribute to the alternative currencies, crypto, precious metals, whatever you want to create. I'm going to pull my kids out of the school, my local school, but I'm going to build by contributing, working with local homeschooling families, unschooling, etc. Right? So regardless of physical location, exit and build is something that people can apply regardless of where they're at, and just by looking at their lives. And I'll just briefly mention one of my other books that I wrote that is downloadable for free on my website, just like How to Opt Out is at theconsciousresistance.com, is called The Holistic Self-Assessment. And I don't talk about this book too much, but I'm going to be putting more energy into it soon. I did a online course with the autonomy folks for it, for anybody who wants to check it out. But it's basically the process I took myself through when I went to prison. And that's where this whole idea comes from, is taking a holistic self-assessment, looking at your life, looking at your economy, your job, your food, your relationships, et cetera, go as deep as you want, and looking for inconsistencies. First, knowing, who am I? What are my principles? What are the values that I hold? And then, are my habits in line with those principles? Are my relationships in line with those principles, right? And just starting to do that work and getting to live in close as possible. Very difficult in our modern world, but it is possible, maybe to a greater degree than you are now, at least. and yeah, striving to kind of to correct those inconsistencies. That's a part of it, right? To me, it's like once you do that holistic self-assessment, then you identify the areas where you're out of alignment, and then you figure out how can I exit from those systems that I'm out of, that I'm currently using that do not align with my values, and go contribute to or create or build other systems, right? So that's pretty much what the focus is about.